here. Oh, why did it do that? Hello, and welcome to IQ session number 97. Tonight is all about what is your health score. Now, I'm assuming this has piqued your interest just a little bit to know, first of all, what is a health score? Second of all, what is mine? Am I good on the health score or am I not so good on the health score?
I'm great.
So first of all, I want to clarify that I'm probably misleading you slightly.
Definitely.
Tonight is more so about raising more questions than answering questions. But there's reason for doing this. A health score is a little term that I came up with when I created the title of this this IQ session, but it's not a medical score. It's not like you going to the doctor, they'll sit you down and they'll give you a score out of 100 and tell you where you are on the healthy range, whatever it might be. It's not like the BMI scale and it tells you if you're fat, obese, or like underweight or average, none of those kind of pathetic medical scores, nothing like that. This is all about understanding your values and your standards for health. Now, when we talk about health, I want it to also include happiness, because you can chase health, but you can be unhappy in the chasing of it because you go without the things that you love. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if I wanted to get supermodel stick thin, I would have to go without a lot of things that I love. And that isn't necessarily going to make me happy.
Well, I have a real life example. When I got ready for the bodybuilding competition that I thought I would do in 8 weeks, it meant I had to strip down a large amount of body fat to make sure that I could get down nice and lean to be standing on stage. However, with that came huge sacrifices. All things fun went out the window because you couldn't do anything. You had no energy. You were miserable, and you had to eat literally egg whites, chicken, broccoli, all those things that had no levels of fat that you could possibly do because you're trying to strip it all down. I was a complete space cadet half the time.
Oh, it was awful.
And snappy.
Don't recommend it to anyone.
No.
Carbs are your friend. They're the fun food as well.
So where I was going with that, for 8 weeks, I was a miserable sod in the chasing of this pursuit of the ultimate physique to stand up on the stage.
Yeah.
8 weeks of this complete obsession, which means that I didn't even want to talk to this one because she was a distraction.
And the other thing is 8 weeks of that intense stuff for what, 3 minutes on stage. And then when by the time it all wrapped up, we went to an Italian restaurant, you guys ate your body weight in pasta, and you never look like that again, because that is what happens when it comes to bodybuilding. You have these people that go on this massive yo-yo of like chasing down this, super lean body fat percentage and looking a certain way. They get there and then they spring back the other way very, very quickly, and then they go again.
My favorite is
seesaw.
And my favorite is when they go this way, like, oh, I'm bulking. Bullshit. You just got fat because you ate too much. That is the reality of it. It's not bulking. It's actually you ate a heck of a lot because you starved yourself for the last XYZ months.
Yeah.
And then you are hungry and you want to be normal for a bit. So you say, I'm bulking to justify the fat gut.
And you justify it by the fact that, you deserve this because you've done something. And it's not necessarily the case. So society puts out an image on the front covers of magazines, and we see it all through Instagram of, possibly how we perceive that we should look. And that's a level of, there's so many different versions of what a body type society puts out there. So like, let's, for example, look at the front of Men's Health. They're always a six-pack, shredded, kind of wedges, not necessarily having legs, but definitely it's all about the upper body. Yep. That's for the guys. The girls are always lean, they look a certain way, etc., etc. Or then you've got like the supermodel style, and they're super skinny, stick thin, tall and lanky. Now, let's use the supermodel as our example for tonight. Let's say that is the standard and the image and the health score that I'm chasing. Me being 5'4", wanting to look tall and lanky is not really achievable. I could get stick thin, skinny, yes. However, health, that comes into play. I wouldn't really give myself a high health score. But all I'm trying to say is that society puts out these images that it says that we should look like. Now, I'm also, there's always a scale. I'm also saying that healthy at any size is not a thing either. If you have too much fat on your body, you're at risk for many diseases like cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and your chance of dying early are much higher. So having a high body fat content, I'm not saying that, that's fine and love yourself at any size. I'm not saying that either. So we're trying to find where is that, where is the middleman? Yeah. But what necessarily is my middleman doesn't have to be your middleman. So I listened to this really cool video, and it was about a PT, and he got asked, why doesn't he have a six-pack? He's a PT. And it was a really great thing to listen to and understand that we all have different standards and different values, what we are now calling a health score for what we see for us, no matter who you are, what you do, and that kind of thing. And not everybody has to have a six-pack to be a PT, etc. Those kind of things. And he explained why he doesn't have a six-pack, and he explained it because that by chasing the six-pack, he had to go without too many of the things that he loves. And this is why I want to include the happiness factor into the health factor when we're talking about the health scores, because being happy is a huge element of enjoying life rather than just chasing the ultimate health. And if ultimate health meant that you could never have, your favorite chocolate in the world ever again because that would be healthy, well, then that's not really that enjoyable, is it? And this is what we try to get across with our 8-week challenges, is that there's nothing off limits. Everything is on limits, but depending on what you're chasing might mean that you have to have a little bit less of those things. So if you are chasing the six-pack, that's awesome. Nothing wrong with that. Everything great about that, but that's not the only standard. Now, if you are chasing that six-pack, it does mean that you're going to have to go without a few of those things.
You have to make some sacrifices, and it'll be a few less social gatherings. You may not get to drink as much as you want to normally drink.
And we're not saying you can't drink. We're just saying you can't drink as much as what you might like to drink.
You will have to make some sacrifices to obtain what you're seeking, which means that they come at a price, which is typically, like I said before, the happiness, the ability to be able to socialize more often. You go out for dinner with people and they want to swing by McDonald's. You typically don't want to go there because you can't typically eat something off it. So it comes with big sacrifices. So you have to be content in your heart, knowing that those sacrifices will be made for you to obtain your health score, if that's what you value highly.
And this is what we're saying. This is why at the start I put a little disclaimer to say that I'm probably going to raise more questions than actual answers, because this is really a journey for you to discover what is your health score, what is your value and your standard for your health, and not based off what anyone else wants. That's like, Matt wants to be able to always comfortably deadlift over 150, 180, whatever it might be. I don't have those same goals, and I don't need to, and there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that I'm not, trying hard enough or have got ambitions or anything like that. It's nothing like that. So what we're saying is it's time for you to work out what you want, because your current goals may not be realistic, and they may keep you in an unhappy state because you're not going to achieve them. I'm
just going to talk on my my lifting goal there that you mentioned. So my goal from a lifting perspective has always been the same: is to lift over 100 kilograms in squats. Anything I do has to be over 100 kgs, because here's my own health score. Created this without knowing it was a thing. Is because I never want to be in a situation where if someone needs my help, I cannot help them because my strength is a factor. I want to know that if I arrive on the scene and you're in need of my help, you've struck gold. Like, you're not going to have a fat person who can't help you up. You're not going to have someone too big they can't get around to help you. You're going to have the person that has the strength needed to help someone. Typically 100 kilograms is going to be a big someone, and that's okay, because I'll be there to help. And then when the adrenaline kicks in, you become superhuman anyway. So then you become crazy super strong. So then all of a sudden, that's the reason why my goals are set like that. But that's for me, my standard, my values, and what I live by. And that's why when I'm not lifting that weight, I'm disappointed in myself. I don't expect anyone else to have to do that, because for me, that's what I value highly, is high strength. So I can always be there to help someone physically if they need my help.
It's brilliant. Love it. First of all, I just want to, or not first of all, because we're 10 minutes in and this is not the first point that I've raised tonight. But I would like to revisit or backtrack where I should have started and talk about the definition of what values are. And that's principles or standards of behavior. So it's our judgment of what is important in life, just to kind of clarify what we're talking about here. And it's based on your views, nobody else's.
I think this, and I'm jumping again.
Please.
Keep jumping
I like that. Do it.
I think that what most people do is they try and line their values up with to please someone else.
Yes.
And that's what values are not. Values are only true to you and only you. Not my values are different to Sheridan. Sheridan's are different to mine. I don't do mine to please her. I do mine to please myself and my journey, my life, my direction I want to go in. And I just happen to have someone in my life, Sheridan, that is coming along for the ride. But she's got her own thing she needs to do and live to her standards of her life too. So that's what values are. They're important to you and you only. They're not there to please anyone else.
The way that you can please other people is by living your values and being congruent to them, because that's when you're in your happiest, most enlightened form. And that's when you're actually a joy to be around. And the opposite, not so enjoyable. Now, when it comes to values, we're not going to reinvent the wheel and talk about them again. But if you watch an IQ session, I think it's number 95 with Dean Popplestone, he talks about values and he really defines them beautifully. So I highly recommend you go back and listen to that one if you haven't already, talking about finding out what your values are as well. Now, when it comes to our values and our standards around health, now remember, I'm adding in happiness with that, because we can chase health, but we can lack happiness, and then what's the point? Because life is meant to be enjoyed. There's three kind of pillars, like it's like a pyramid. There's to achieve like the ultimate balance of what we're chasing here for the highest health score would be a balance of quality of life. Again, this comes into the happiness side of things, plus it's your mood, libido, performance, so many things that come into that. Then there's performance, and then there's physique. So they're the three: quality of life, performance, and physique. And trying to find a really beautiful blend and balance of those three things to work out what your standard is around that. Do you have any? Nope. Cool. Excellent. So quality of life, do you wake up with energy every morning? Do you love your life? Are you happy that you are where you are and what you're doing and how you look? Do you stand the physique? Do you stand in the mirror and go, not bad? Like, hello, how you doing? I am me. I'm going to strap my stuff down on the beach and I'm going to be confident in it. Do you go to the gym and can you perform how you want to perform? Can you run and do you feel how you want to feel when you exercise? And having a blend of that is a really great tool to measure your health score, because you can have the physique, you can have one of those three elements, but you can be in a shitty headspace. You can be, what you talked about when you were chasing the bodybuilding, flighty, snappy, pain in the ass. Had the physique, quality of life, not so quality.
Almost single again.
Almost single again, yeah. And then you have the performance side of things. Now your performance dropped as well because you didn't have enough energy going in to be able to feel what you wanted to do. So just because you looked a certain way does not mean that just because he was the leanest he'd been, does not mean he was the strongest. Even though his muscles were protruding more than they'd ever protruded, doesn't mean that his strength was where it has been or could have been. It wasn't peaking. So it's finding a nice blend and balance of those three elements for what you value, because strength or performance for me is totally different to performance for someone else, and physique for me is totally different to what physique is for someone else. And for me, I'm a six-pack girl and I'm not ashamed in saying that. I'm proud of myself, what I do for my body, how I look and all that kind of thing. I meet my standards, but that doesn't mean that has to be your standard. That doesn't mean that a six-pack is the measurement of how you're tracking.
because things factor into those things why some people will never have a six-pack. Again, maybe they had it when they're younger, but not when they're older, because maybe they've had 5 kids. Maybe they've had surgery, open heart surgery, which they've split their body up the middle. Like, there's so many factors that come into play that will affect some people's chance of ever having those things again visibly. You've all got the abs there because that's what keep us upright. That's not the point. But a visible, fat depleted body, allowing those abs to be protruded, that for some people is not obtainable because their bodies have been dysmorphed through things like surgeries, children, and all that sort of stuff. It's just part of life. It's not right, wrong. It's just what it is. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
So really the questions we want you to raise and think about tonight is to determine your health score and what you're aiming for and your goals and your vision board stuff is making sure that it's in a realistic. Now, we never want to say that goals aren't achievable, because if you set your mind to anything, you can achieve it. But at what cost is ultimately the question I really want to raise is, yes, you can have the abs. Yes, you can look however it is that you want to look, but is it at the cost of your happiness and what you enjoy and your lifestyle and your time with your family and friends and those kind of things? So it's finding out what the balance is between what you want, what you're happy to settle for without dropping your standards. Yeah. So it's kind of like a real wishy-washy fine line there, but I think, does that make sense with what I'm trying to say?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's kind of why we say to people, stop trying to lose weight and focus on getting fit. Because with fitness comes weight loss anyway. It's a byproduct of it. So, but the psyche of it is so different, because fitness is so much more obtainable and it's quicker to receive it than it is to do weight loss. Weight loss is this journey of bumpy, grindy kind of stuff like this. And so we were just having lunch today with a guy, Pete, and he was telling us about his brother had lost, I don't know, kgs, weren't talking this language much anymore, but like 20 something kilograms, I think they did, he'd done. And his brother, he went on to tell his brother, oh, you're going to get stuck on it's going to get hard to get under 90. He started telling his brother what was about to happen with, he had no proof that was going to happen, but he was basically planting a seed to say, you're not going to be able to do the next run. It's going to be too hard. So I chimed in really quickly and I said, what he wants to focus on is not losing the weight, just wants to focus on getting fit and having more energy in his day to go and do the things that he wants to do. See, there's more happiness in going and doing things and hanging things, because prior to that, he was extremely overweight. He was sedentary. He was always on his computer. He was in a caravan, I believe he said. So his whole thing was hermit. Now, he lost a lot of weight because he got a scare from the dentist of all people, saying that if you keep this up, you will die, blah, blah, blah. And it was the kick up the ass he needed. He received it, which is beautiful. He went and did something about it, cold turkey, went all guns blazing, cut all the soft drink and stuff out of his life. And he lost a lot of weight, clearly. The challenge with that is the benefits from that was his energy increased, his happiness increased, his want to go outside his trailer increased. He was affected by all the floods up here in Queensland. And he wasn't like Debbie Downer. He was literally the opposite. He was optimistic. And now he's out mowing lawns for all the people and doing handyman jobs. And he's got this newfound lease for life because he had lost the weight, but he had focused on getting more active to do it, which is really quite cool.
Because at some point what happens is people get in this cycle of losing weight. So if someone's been quite large and they've started on a weight loss journey, they get addicted to the weight loss. Oh, I've lost this many kilos. I've lost this many kilos. There comes a point where there's no more kilos to lose. Some of our beautiful members at FBFM, and I've had this conversation with Kirsty only recently, she's lost an incredible amount of weight. She looks phenomenal. She's fit, she's healthy, she's vibrant. Her health score is right up there because she's incredible. Anyway, but there comes a point where, and we discussed this, that you had to change your language and your cycle from what you're losing, so losing weight, because there comes to a point that if you get to, even down as low as like 60 kilos, what more are you going to lose? Then you start to lose things that are actually, kind of important and important to your health. So losing weight gets us in a cycle, but we can't stick to that because at some point there's no more weight to lose.
Yeah. And typically when when someone joins the gym for the first time, right, that typically most people say they want to lose weight and tone up. It's 99% of people will come in to say that to us unless they're sports specific. Typically that's the thing that most people say. So we know that there's a number they're emotionally attached to. So you just have to find out what that number is. So say I'm 100 kilograms and I want to lose, let's say 20 kilograms. So clearly I want to be 80 kgs. I've told you I want to be 80 kilos without telling you that. I need to do, as a personal trainer, find out why 80 kilos of all the numbers you could have chosen, why that number? And the reason for that isn't because of the weight loss journey to get to that number, is because the last time I was probably purely happy in my life was when I was 80 kgs. And they're trying to relive a moment based on that. Now, here's what happens. This is the catch. Sometimes people lose the weight. They get to that weight and they're not happy. Because they were obsessive about getting to the weight, which they thought was going to make them happy again. But the reality is that the number of weight lost is irrelevant in your life if you can't be happy when you're not like that. Because happiness isn't a number. Happiness is a journey and a process, and it's a series of moments that we collectively make our life, which makes it so enjoyable, which is the happiness Sheridan's talking about. So you have to enjoy the whole process. If starving yourself to get to that number is your ultimate goal, and you're prepared to sacrifice people in your life and being a miserable sod and being someone you don't want to be around, then go for it. But what happens when you get to that number? What if it's not what you think it's going to be? This is why weight loss is stupid. It's irrelevant. That number has zero effect on anyone. What you're chasing is being more active, being fitter, and the memories you had around being that weight. Now, you could be that weight in that moment and probably still have the same memories. But the reality is that it's not about the kgs lost. It's about the journey to wherever you're heading.
Because that's just chasing the physique, right? You've got the other two factors. You've got performance and you've got quality of life. That's why that one comes into play too. Because quality of life, you need to have a blend. It's just like when you, with your diet, you can't just survive on carbohydrates. Our bodies need protein and it needs fat as well. There's a blend of it all that we need to have, and working out the blend that works for you. Not everyone has the same blend. Just like not everyone has the same standards, not everyone has the same values around health, but don't adopt someone else's values and standards for health and happiness. Find out what yours are and then hold yourself to them and chase that down and enjoy every step of the way, because you don't have to have a six pack, but we also don't want you to be a fat sod either, because that's not healthy either.
It's that whole thing with extremes. It's just like dieting. It's the same thing, right? You can be extremely obsessive about being weight and too obsessive. And that's the end of the spectrum. It's the person who goes down the road of anorexia, megarexia, which is when they get addicted to being massive and they just keep injecting steroids. And so they get so big that their heart conks out anyway. But they get this addiction to those. Those are extreme cases, right? They're obsessive people. Then you've got the other extremes, which are completely lazy people. They're morbidly obese. They eat, they don't do anything. They justify that it's okay. They're the other end of the spectrum. They just don't do anything good for their body because of whatever reason in their life. So they're the ends of the spectrum, which is what Sheridan's talking about, the extremes. You have to find where you fit on that spectrum. You don't want to be at either end of it because they're too obsessive and they come at massive consequences. The people down this end, which are all the Harry Hardouts doing all the not wanting to, they're miserable to be around. They're not fun to be around. The people at the other end who are morbidly obese, they're not fun to be around anyway because they can't do anything. You say, hey, let's go for a hike up this hill. They ain't wanting to do that.
Yeah.
Very rarely will you find someone massively obese who's going to want to go running up a hill, or they can't go on certain things because they weigh too much and that sort of thing. See, they're massive exaggerated spectrums. You don't want to be that. You need to find somewhere in the middle that works for you, that gives you that quality of life, and most importantly, because life is way too short. If COVID's taught us anything, it's that it can change in a heartbeat, even when you thought it would never change. So don't take things for granted and make sure you enjoy the whole journey. But don't be a lazy sod and be down that end, and don't be obsessive and be down that end. Find something that works in the middle, that you have complete happiness in the middle doing it.
So good. So to answer the question, what is your health score? I got no idea. I want you to work it out. Handball.
Yeah, stop being lazy. That's a spectrum. Get back in the middle, do the work.
And the higher your health score is, the closer you are to, to living your standards and your values out every day, every minute of every day. And so go and listen to Dino's values IQ session. Work out what's your blend of quality of life, performance, and physique. How do you want to look, feel, perform, act, all those kind of things. And then you can start measuring off that. And that's how you find out your health score. It's nothing anyone else can tell you. No skin fold test or body mass index test or whatever it is. That's not going to tell you, because it's got to feel right for you. Yep. But little asterisks. Remember to never settle because the work is hard. If there's a way that you physically want to look and feel and perform and all of that kind of stuff, you can have that if you want it.
You don't have to be obsessive. No,
you don't have to be obsessive, but it does mean it's going to take some work.
It takes the key word here, and if you've ever heard most of our IQ sessions, it's consistency. Consistency is always rewarded. If you consistently do nothing, you're rewarded with weight gain, miserable, still an angry side to be around. But if you're consistent towards your goal, you will receive the goal at some stage. When that is, you don't know. Like, that's just consistency. And when it decides to show up in your life, it might be 12 weeks from now, it could be 12 years from now. But if you remain consistent, you will get to where you're going.
It's
just about being consistent. That's the key to it all.
I think you say be consistently average so you can be occasionally great.
It could be consistently good to be occasionally great.
Okay, not average. That was terrible.
I don't like that word average.
No, neither.
No.
Consistently good to be occasionally great.
That's the key.
Brilliant. Why not? All right, that's all we got for you. Look at us go. Any questions? We good? No? Excellent. Well, I hope that has created some thinking material for your Thursday evening. But please do take the time to make sure that the goals that you're chasing are in fact achievable. Now, only the reason they wouldn't be achievable is someone like me wanting to look tall and lanky. I'm 5'4". Tall doesn't really fit in the same sentence as 5'4", does it? Tall or lanky.
At school.
At a school,
you could be a teacher.
That's a good point. You know what? Scrap that. But what works for you and what you're going to enjoy, appreciate: quality of life, performance, and physique. Good blend of all of them.
All
right, you beautiful people. Enjoy. Thank you so much. Have a sensational night.
See you later.
We'll see you tomorrow. Mwah. We love you.